Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're talking to Dr. Matt Crosslin, and I'm Dr. Peggy Semingson, and we're both at the University of Texas at Arlington. All views on this podcast are our own. So tell us about yourself briefly, and then we're going to talk about what do people need to know about this shift to teaching and functioning mainly, if not entirely, online.
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, I work at the University of Texas at Arlington at the Link Research Lab. We research different aspects of learning innovation, from learning analytics to we're even getting into some virtual reality and chatbot things, as well as instructional design. And that's really my background. I spent a little over a decade with the Center for Distance Education as an instructional designer, helping a lot of faculty get their courses online, as well as I teach at the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley online in their master's and doctoral programs there in educational technology. So I also have experience as a teacher as well. Even going back to before all this, I was actually an 8th grade science teacher as well in public schools. So I've been doing lots of education for a while. So.
Yeah, we have that in common, the K-12 and then the higher ed. And you've had a lot of perspectives and hats. Great. And you're very cutting edge. So what do you think people need to know about this shift, kind of being plunged in the deep end, or so to speak, with online?
Well, first of all, you don't have to be cutting edge. You're going to have to probably focus on what works. In instructional design, we do that often. You know, we can't get every faculty to be like you on board with all the latest stuff. So we, in instructional design, we're used to working with where people are at and what they're comfortable with and what they have available. And that's a good point to remember, is that you're going to have certain tools available to you. You're going to have certain things that are available to you. And it's good to make the best use of those as possible. Especially when you're trying to come up with content, you're going to be really, really pressed for time. And I tell people, and some faculty get a little offended at this, most of them like the suggestion though, but just search the web for content that's already been created.
Right.
Is the number one thing I can tell you to save time is, instead of sitting there trying to record tons of videos, or type out tons of content yourself, look for the stuff that's already been created. It may be a little bit different than you would say it, but then just create a blog post or an annotated list or a page in your LMS of those sources. So that's the thing I would tell people is that it's okay to look for help from others. It is okay to rely on sources that have already been created. It's okay to look into open resources, OERs.
Oh yeah.
But also the bigger picture is there's going to be a lot of chaos. There's going to be a lot of stress. There's going to be a lot of things. So just realize that and prepare to be flexible. If you don't get to do things the way you want to do it, just flex. If things aren't working too well with the tool that you're liking, we've started seeing people that are noticing Zoom kind of straining a bit under the extra use, and your campus services might strain. Even some internet service providers with more outdated technology are starting to see their services strain. I mean, I've seen real people noting this. This is not predicted. It's already
anecdotal. Yeah.
So be prepared to flex with that. If you have to turn around and start emailing students instead of doing online sessions, I even told people that if they need to get used to printing stuff out and mailing it, whatever you need to get.
Correspondence,
That's the true remote teaching, right? That we're used to hearing back from decades ago was, mailing stuff. So or on the telephone,
there's a history. I like that idea. And I say, if you're a perfectionist, forget it. Like I was like, oh, my hair doesn't look great. Who cares? It's about the message these days. So that's so true.
If your kid or your dog interrupts you, just go with it.
Whatever, go with the flow. I know, exactly. And I like your idea about flexibility and curating content, other people's content, if it works, rather than reinvent the wheel these days. So perfect. Anything else that you want to suggest to people, especially from your instructional design background?
If you can think of your, you have the content that you want the stuff for students to learn. You can also create ways for students to find that content as well.
Oh, right.
You don't necessarily have to be the one to do it. Say, hey, we're studying this week. find some links, find some books at your library, find
Mm-hmm.
some, books at your house, or even, find some sources and then show that to me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then also I would think of, a lot of people are trying to think about how to put tests online, how to put those kind of things online. I would turn, again, as far as the flexible thing is, I would turn to things that are maybe a little bit more experiential or active,
Mm-hmm.
because people are going to be cooped up at home. Have them
Right.
actually get off the computer and do something. Look for
Right.
pictures in a book. Look for examples of something. Create something and put a
Mm-hmm.
video of it or
Mm-hmm.
something, just something that actually helps them apply their learning. I'm
Yeah,
hearing
they
from
can use
people,
their phone,
yes,
maybe.
use your phone, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but there was a thing from Italy. It kind of went a little bit viral on Twitter where some students in Italy were like, "Yay, we get up each morning, we watch 3 hours of video. Oh no, can I go back to the regular school, please?"
Yeah, that gets
And
old.
I hear that. So just keep that in mind, is that they're probably going to be overloaded on
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
teachers recording videos. So if you can get them, and probably a little bored too from being, schools being canceled. So if you could,
That's so true.
give them an activity, something that applies, to your
Mm-hmm.
topic, obviously that would help.
Yeah, so don't be boring. And then I know we're both fans of micro learning, and I've
Yes.
harped on that. But then just keeping short bits of content.
Oh yeah, totally. You have some good articles and resources on micro content that I would highly recommend everyone look at.
Yeah, an hour-long voiceover PowerPoint is not good.
Yeah.
So even my 5-minute videos, I check, and people generally only watch the first 2 or 3 minutes. So,
Yeah.
but okay, great. And then let's kind of shift gears, because we're teaching a workshop, so hopefully people will learn from that. And then, what do you think about this whole idea? And I've never thought of this whole idea of like enduring kind of big scale ideas about distance ed and needing to know it versus like being thrown into it and surviving the next few weeks. What do you think? What are you seeing with that? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a big discussion on Twitter, especially, where people are saying, don't call it online learning, call it remote teaching.
Uh-huh.
Because online course design, instructional design, I mean, I have a PhD in it, right? So there's a lot that you can learn, a lot of isms and ologies and theory and stuff like that. And that stuff can be helpful, but it's a little overbearing to dive into that, especially if you're new to online learning.
Mm-hmm.
And even with people are also worried that this emergency situation to online will reflect negatively online learning, right, in general,
Mm-hmm.
especially when
Right.
you hear these 3-hour video things. And I totally understand that. Remote teaching is kind of a historical concept that goes back to the Pony Express and correspondence courses, and even before that. Even I think back to the Greeks, when the students would memorize what the teacher said, and then they'd travel to different agoras and recite what they said. I mean,
right. Oral language, yeah.
Oral languages, all these forms of remote learning that do take a lot of time and preparation as well. And I want to be careful that we don't insult those kind of things by substituting that term for fast emergency online learning.
I know what you mean.
But I get what people are saying, and I don't necessarily disagree with them. And yes, it's true. There is the difference between what I do, with my studies, what you've done for decades with your work and learning how to do it. Yes, it can take a long time to put a lot of these more robust learning experiences online. But a lot of those are also bells and whistles and things that are good for a regular situation, but maybe not so necessary for an emergency situation.
I get you. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, people should keep that in mind too. And then, so I guess that's it. What do you think about, do people need to know the underlying theories in order to teach online? Like you've talked about adult learning theory. I'm big on community of inquiry framework. Like, do people need to know all that stuff, do you think?
Not when they first started, I think. I mean, you probably
Yeah.
want to get some actual experience. It doesn't hurt when you have time. I mean, now we're kind of at a crunch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, when they have time, it does help them find things, especially the community of inquiry, the whole humanizing online education helps.
Right.
Knowing things like heutagogy, which is one
Mm-hmm.
that I like, which is learning how to learn rather than what to learn, is more
Mm-hmm.
experiential, more student-centered learning. Those can help you find all kinds of ideas and resources, but that would be a little overwhelming for
Mm-hmm.
people right now. So I would focus
Yeah, I
on
agree. Yeah, and
getting
there's exactly. There's people I know in the field who know way more than I do, and I'm overwhelmed talking to them. So yeah, we need to keep that in mind. So, well, great. And then our last topic, really important one. You had indicated you're really interested in accessibility and equality as core functions of course design. So what does that mean?
Yeah, one thing I found as an instructional designer through the years, and this is true, I mean, this is not the first time we've had to put classes online at the last minute. There's always
Mm-hmm.
been, through the years, there's been those situations where an instructor gets sick and it needs to go
Mm.
online
Oh,
for a
right.
different professor or someone splits or whatever, I mean, there are things that happen we also have to put a new class online very fast.
Uh-huh.
But whether you put it on fast or slow, one of the things that I've noticed hold fairly constant is if you don't take accessibility issues into mind from the beginning, you end up spending a lot more time fixing them.
Mm-hmm.
Once someone says, "Oh, hey, I can't. The screen reader doesn't work on this," or there's no alt text for the images here, or the captions have some mistakes in them right at the key words that I need to read, and so accessibility is really something that you really have to take into account from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also difficult, especially videos, because the captioning takes a while. There are auto captioning
Yeah.
tools. You have to go back and check those to make sure, especially those key words that you're trying to teach are the ones that often get missed by the auto captioning because it's never ran into those
Right.
words before.
Right. Technical words. Yeah.
Technical words. So, but I believe like Canvas, you can go in and edit once it auto captions. And so,
Mm-hmm.
but again, if you're doing an hour of video, that's still a lot of editing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I usually recommend people look at like curation and student-centered learning to help save time. But
Mm-hmm.
also with equality, that's looking at things, digital divides, digital redlining, those kind of things where we have to look at students, and as we were talking about earlier, even teachers who don't have access
Mm.
to technology at home.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
you can't assume that they have a computer at home, that they have internet at
Mm-hmm.
home, that they have sole access to the internet at home. They'll have to share it with family and
Mm-hmm.
siblings who are also stuck at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we're also struggling to figure out what to do with social services as well, either,
Oh,
with
yeah.
the free meal programs for the K-12 or,
Mm.
access to mental health services, especially as
Mm-hmm.
people get a little bit frightened about what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
definitely.
so all that's a lot to keep in mind as well. But it goes back to that flexibility thing. I'm telling people,
Mm-hmm.
if your students just want to use your classroom tools just to chat, just to connect with
Mm-hmm.
one another, just let
Mm-hmm.
them.
Right.
Don't
Right. Right.
don't sit there locking out. You're not talking about my topic. Don't worry about that.
Right.
Just
Right.
let them connect. Let them
Mm-hmm.
socialize. Be careful with a lot of these lockdown browsers and various surveillance tools as well, because those also cause equality problems with people who don't
Mm-hmm.
have very newer computers at home. And things like that as well. And
Right.
there's just so many they could go into, but I mean, I just recommend people look for those things and keep them in mind.
Yeah, and it's not something we can solve right away. As we're seeing, like with healthcare, I mean, these are like always already existing issues that come to the forefront. I was going to say about your anxiety thing. When doing live teaching, it took me a long time to feel okay with it. So I think feeling anxious about doing live teaching is totally normal. But then the skill of being able to troubleshoot when things don't work is really important. And I think that
Yeah.
takes time, like knowing what to do. And especially if you're live and you're like, hello, it's not working. Can you hear me? And all of those things takes, I would say, months or even years to get over build the confidence, build the skill set. You can do it, but to feel totally calm and at ease takes a while, I think, with
Yeah,
live.
that's very true. Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of people are going to be getting, and I guess spring break is being extended for us and for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
in a week and a half or whatever, there's going to be a lot of people getting online and just a lot of,
it should be
silent mouths talking while no sound's coming, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The ringing, for the feedback. Oh, it's going to be a lot of that.
Oh, I know. But yeah, just knowing what is your plan A, what if the audio is not working, can they dial in on a phone number? How do you get them that phone number ahead of time? Reminding students to try out their audio and video ahead of time. Yeah, all of those things are things to think about.
Well, one of the best pieces of advice I saw on Twitter, and I'm blanking how I shared it. I'm sorry for sharing someone else's advice without knowing the name.
That's okay.
But they said they were talking with their students about how to take the class online.
Oh, yeah.
What are your ideas? Here, you see my syllabus. How do we take this online? And getting the students' idea and feedback, is very, very helpful, because they will be able to tell you some of these things, Like, I don't know how to do online, if you have a lot of students that have never done an online meeting before, maybe not do that,
Right, exactly. Yeah, do that next year or something. Well, good. I think that's it. Just wanted to dig, pick your brain, and we're doing that workshop next week. I think it'll be popular. But yeah, and then I'll share this out too as a supplement.
Okay, sounds great.
So yeah, thank you.